Right. When I was a little boy, I grew up surrounded by monkeys of various sorts. And particularly in Uganda, we had a very beautiful little monkey which used to come, it made little chirps like a bird. I asked questions about why on earth has this monkey got such an elaborate and detailed pattern on its face, just on its face, otherwise a rather dull looking animal. And so much later I started exploring what might be the answer to this. And I found out something really rather interesting, that the monkeys were very small arboreal monkeys, and they had very bright faces like this. Now, that's really rather an extraordinary thing. It's like a mask, and the rest of the monkey was just sort of brown. They had a red tail too, and the red tail could be used like a signal as well. And what I discovered was they were very, very closely related, so closely related that they shouldn't really be in the same species, but they actually lived without breeding normally with the larger monkey. Now the larger monkeys stayed in the shade. The larger monkeys didn't have these bright face patterns. They were basically camouflaged, if you like. And they lived in the shade. They were big, heavy monkeys. And they fed on insects and things in the bark. They were very destructive. They were always pulling away the bark and eating it in the shade. So they weren't even lit up. But in two places, they got much, much smaller because they were right on the edge near the Sahara where the forest had degraded. And the trouble was that the males would frighten the females away. Now that was fine when there were big, heavy monkeys living in the shade. The males could intimidate females, and the females just had to sort of accept it, and there wasn't a great problem in mating and so on, and in sticking together as a social group. But once they became very lightweight monkeys, and they were out on the edges of the forest and up in the forest canopy, where there were lots of little fruits, there were lots of insects also, there were flowers, there was nectar, lots of resources, out on the thin branches, and because they were smaller, they could climb out on the small branches. It was very difficult for the males to persuade females to come anywhere near them, because they were frightened of the males. And so the males started developing a technique which was to avoid a stare, because a stare, you know what a stare is like. It's angry, isn't it? And staring was part of how males intimidated females. And if you look at baboons and other things, the males are very sort of aggressive and they stare at you. Well, these ones started avoiding it. And when they avoid, of course, the avoiding thing, they wanted to advertise that they were avoiding staring. And so to take the eye away from an eye, it's natural for you to look at an eye because there's so much information in an eye. So it's quite natural for you to want to look at it. To distract it, you put bright colors anywhere except on the eye. So you have bright cheeks, you have a moustache, a white moustache, a black mouthpiece, and bright blue, bright yellow, just to distract from the eyes. And so that became ultimately the reason in evolutionary terms why these face patterns had evolved.